I used to go to a certain 24-hour gas station close to my house around 3 or 4 a.m. regularly because that's when I got off work and not much else was open. It was usually the same guy working. He was always friendly, but not really creepy seeming. One night, I was just getting some honey, and he said don't worry about paying. It was odd, but I figured maybe he already counted his drawer or was mad at his boss. Whatever. Then he said hold on, I want to show you something, and started walking toward the back. I followed him. Not nervous, but I prefer a good amount of personal space, so I stayed about 4 to 5 feet behind him. He opened the door to the back room, and I could see from where I was that it was just a stock room and it was mostly empty, so when stepped in the doorway and motioned for me to follow, I stopped and asked what he wanted to show me. Dude lunged at me, grabbed my arm and tried to yank me into the room. Fortunately for me, I am really strong, a lot stronger than I look, and I grabbed him back, yanked him away from the room toward the cameras, and kinda threw him into the wall. I said thanks for the honey bitch and I left. At first I was mad, then I was depressed about it. I thought about calling the cops, but in the place I lived they didn't even show up for gunshots half the time. I thought about calling his boss, but he had been there for years, and a lot of times these things don't get taken seriously. I didn't know what I was gonna do, but the next day I went in with my phone, clearly videotaping him, and when he saw me he smiled. He liked that I had him on video and called me honey and flexed his muscles for the camera. WTF? He literally just thought what he did was cool until I started talking, and I let him know in no uncertain terms that I was angry. His response was a nervous, "Oh, are you gonna get your boyfriend to come do something to me?" That made me even more mad. Like, why wasn't he afraid of me? He already knows I'm stronger than him. But he had such little regard for women that he thinks what he did was okay, and the only thing to worry about is if I got a man involved. The more I thought about, the more I started to worry about other women to cross his path. Not all women are as strong as I am, and somebody else may have wound up in that back room. I thought he needed to learn that a woman can be scary and not feel so comfortable just casually assaulting us. I didn't want to hit him and go to jail, so I made a plan, and it was a fun one. I kept going in at random intervals. Sometimes multiple days in a row. Sometimes not for weeks. Sometimes after work, sometimes after a performance, dressed in any kind of mask or strange, dirty, sweaty clothes I had worn on stage. Every time was a new demented scenario. The first time I put a handful of coins in my mouth. Yeah, it's gross but worth it. It was well over the amount that honey cost. I walked in staring at him with a blank look on my face and grabbed a honey, never breaking eye contact. He was not happy to see me this time. He was on the phone and I walked toward the counter but stayed about 10 feet away and just stared. He tried to wave me to the register and cash me out while he was on the phone. He really didn't want to interact with me, and my dead stare started to creep him out pretty quickly. It took about 5 minutes for him to get off the phone. He was weirded out by this time, but he couldn't really call the cops or do anything because I had him on video admitting to assaulting me. I held my ground and my stare. It was so hard not to smile as he got more and more nervous, but I held on for about 10 solid minutes, then slowly walked up to the counter and opened my mouth, just let all the coins just fall out. I stared blankly for another few seconds and walked out with my honey. Every time was something equally crazy. Once I just kept opening candy at the counter, taking one bite, then dropping it and saying it doesn't taste good. Why doesn't it taste good? I need it to taste good. Then I left a 20 in the counter and walked out. I'm not a thief. One time I just cheerfully sang a Cramps song and rearranged an entire aisle. Every time he tried to tell me to stop, I glared him and sang louder. I visited him often for around 6 months. Sometimes I would act like he was my best friend and just hang out at the counter telling him random nonsensical stories. Sometimes I would act like I was so heartbroken and sad about like the donut display or something. But I never ever let him speak. I would change my expression to a murder stare and keep talking, but make my voice very loud and firm until he shut up. Eventually, he developed a twitch and I could tell he was truly miserable, so I felt done. My boyfriend really wanted to see this dude, so I brought him in for one last visit. Did a whole introduction like we were buddies. We both leaned on the counter drinking soda and eating candy for about 30 minutes. It was earlier than usual due a few other people were in and out. We were cheerful as fuck. I told him that I felt like he didn't like me as much as he used to. I told my boyfriend in front of him he used to like me a lot. He liked me so much, he tried to drag me into that back room over there. You gotta really like someone to do that. I asked him why he didn't like me as much as he used to. Told him I felt like I had been a really good friend. I even come to see him all the time. I even eat candy that doesn't taste good and help arrange shelves and sing him songs. I acted so hurt. So my boyfriend acted really offended and asked him why he doesn't like me as much. He knew better than to speak by now, so it was a real deer in the headlights scenario. As we were leaving, I said, "Oh, I have a present for you, but I forgot it." "It's okay, I'll just bring it to your house. Don't worry, I wasn't following you or anything, I was just driving behind you and watching where you go. Bye." Then I never went back. I don't have any way of knowing if it worked, but my hope is that next time this POS wants to put his hands on a woman that doesn't want it, he remembers the 6 months of hell the last one.
Like and subscribe now for more.